Welcome, everyone, to the VBLS Season 7. I am Anthony the Amazing, and I have with me the one, the only, the Doctor, one of the greatest men to ever do it. Say hello.
Hello. Greatest men to ever do it. That can't
Yep.
possibly be true.
It really depends on the context of what the it is. And
What
the
it is?
is just like collaborating with me, which means you're
Oh.
part of an esteemed list of like 20 people.
Being available is what you're saying.
I reached out to you directly. Thank you very much.
I know.
This time you were the first choice.
I'll take it.
It's like, just because the previous time you weren't doesn't mean anything.
We don't have to remind people of that.
Are
You didn't
sure
have to
about
remind me of that.
that? I thought that's what you were referring to.
Nope, I had totally forgotten about that.
Incredible.
So,
All right,
thanks for those painful memories. No, I'm just I'm kidding.
I wanted the best to ever do it in it, meaning like bringing back memories that people had suppressed.
Yeah, I'll
It's
give
great
you
as
that
a
one.
therapy
No problem.
tactic. It's terrible for friendships. That said, it makes for very well monetizable content. So leave a comment below if I've accidentally brought up any of your tragic memories in the past and remind me of them so I can feel like a terrible person for it. Also, leave a like on the video, or leave a dislike. Either way, I think YouTube appreciates it. I don't fully know.
Who knows?
So we're looking at the quarterfinals. I'm pretty sure top 8 means quarterfinals.
Top 8 is semifinals. Oh, top 8 is quarterfinals. Top
Yeah.
4 is semifinals.
Yeah, this
but
is
we are
top
technically in two. We are in two top 4s,
We're
not a
doing a
top
game
8.
between the top 2, right?
Yeah, but that's grand final. That's an exhibition match. That's basically the switcheroo.
I mean, you did an exhibition match. Does that make you the winner?
Well, no, because I lost. But
No, but you were doing an exhibition match between the champions.
yeah. Grand finals is an exhibition match. Well, regardless, the point is,
I
there's
personally
there's
think
4
that the
matches
person
to
who
talk
loses should, have to forfeit all of their like winning things. It was basically like they didn't even make playoffs.
about.
Everyone except the person who loses grand finals that made playoffs is fine, but you get punished for making it to grand finals but not going the distance.
And losing.
It's about having
Brutal.
a trade-off. If you want that title, you have to risk something for it. Okay, so speaking of the champions, we're going to head into our first match containing one of the first seed playing coaches, and it's the Nova Delmite against Heaven and the French Frillishes. So
With the kill leader for the whole league, Registeel.
Registeel, right? I was like, I have no idea which one it is. I'm
No,
like,
it's
it's not
Registeel.
Thunderous, right? Is it? I remember Lola Ninetales is the kill leader in terms of fairies.
These stats are nonsense. 21 kills, 4 deaths,
Yeah, how did it die
Brought-
4 times?
brought to 18 games.
Don't forget this doesn't include content from this last week's playoffs. So Sora, for those of you
True.
who watched the previous videos, Sora was facing off against an incredibly tough matchup against Sly, but Sora prepped really well, Sora played really well, and Sly didn't adapt super well heading into the third game, which wound up leaving Sora with a pretty resounding victory. And Heaven had an absolutely monstrous set against Sam, where I think Sam kind of missed the
Sam last
analysis
week.
of Steve and I, where we were just like, this is offense versus offense, and Sam brought like setup and defensive stuff, and just kind of got barreled over, even though I don't think they really had the matchup for a lot of that more immediately passive, more longer gameplay. Even if the Mons could do it theoretically on paper, in practice it just didn't wind up working out as well.
Yeah. So let's talk about this week though.
Yeah.
The past is the past. Let's look to the future. I would say, given the ridiculous stats that Registeel's had over the course of the season, Heaven's question is, how do I beat Registeel? Yeah. I mean, if for
have
no
an
other
answer.
reason,
I have a very
Then-
easy answer.
so I have some answers as well.
Okay.
I have some reasonable answers, and then I have a kind of crazy answer that
Okay.
you let me know what you think of it.
Okay.
One, Nidoking is very good.
Yep, that was my immediate answer.
Two, Haze Melodic is a possibility.
That's a big one. Among other Haze users.
Focus Blast Reuniclus.
Okay.
And
I don't
my
think
crazy
Reuniclus
one.
even needs like. Can't Reuniclus just Iron Defense
Psychic
up alongside it?
too.
And then if it's like Iron Defense, and then, like, even if it's Mono Psychic, the only mono it's struggling into then is Groudon. Because Mono Psychic, if it sets up defensively, can kind of go in. This isn't like super much in my notes, but like I feel like if you try to set up with Registeel and you just let Reuniclus set up, then both of them resist each other, but only one of them has recovery.
I kind of love that, actually. That is spicy, but not unreasonable. Now let me tell you about my spicy and unreasonable idea.
Okay. Is it the Spextora Cat?
It's Goggles Halucha with Endure and Endeavor in the hail.
2 questions. Right, okay. So the first one is, why does the Halucha not simply kill the Registeel?
Because Registeel's defense is crazy high and Halucha's attack stat is actually not that great.
But it gets a move that ignores defense raises. Doesn't it?
Yeah, but it's... Look, you coming in here with all your reasonable ideas. I want Endure Endeavor Halucha, and I think that's not unreasonable to want other people to do in their matches.
To want other people to do in their matches, eh?
Well, I would never do it. It's a terrible idea.
I just feel like one of those places where Registeel is scariest is in Hail. So like, sorry, is in Trick Room. So why does Halucha need? And like, it doesn't need safety goggles. You can just not have Ninetales. That's the comp, right?
Well, if you don't have the goggles, or if you don't have the hail, how are you doing the last point?
Right.
Because you got to endure one
hitting
turn
it with the partner Pokemon.
Yeah, but you got to get your Halucha to 1 first. It's a whole thing.
Okay, it looks like I am wrong about the move that ignores defense stats on Halucha. I don't know why I thought it had that. Or maybe it does,
nobody's right all the time. After all, I just suggested Endure, Endeavor, Safety Goggles, Halucha, so yeah. Nobody can be right all the time.
You can also want Torment.
Oh, there might be something there,
sorry,
actually.
Torment's only old gen. No! Sorry, I was looking at the old gen moves list, trying to figure out.
There's nothing there.
Look, I think we were rolled. Can you just coaching a partner Pokemon and then like have that one also defensively set up, and then like most of the Pokemon resist fighting, so it's not going to do anything. You could also Wisp it.
Yeah, so there's lots of, so there's lots of answers to the question, how does Heaven beat Registeel? I think is what we're getting at.
Good into Zora's team.
But the fact that there are answers doesn't mean...
My thoughts were about this matchup.
Sure. Well, I still got some more as well, but give me yours.
This matchup also skews very heavily into offense against offense. Both teams struggle to take the opposing team's hits particularly well. And one team does have Fake Out and the other one doesn't. So that leans the matchup slightly into Heaven's favor. Because, again, Heaven and the French Villages are dirty, disrespectful, really just, a heal player that uses Fake Out in a league format. It's honestly, it's all but dishonest. I really think that the VGC Battle League, needs to look into whether people should be allowed to use Fake Out in future seasons. But no,
this narrative you've created where Fake Out is evil just because you didn't draft Fake Out.
I will have you know, it's even worse than that. It was only because I was slightly too late to transaction and get Fake Out.
Yeah, but you had 7 weeks to do that.
No, it was a personal failure, right? Entirely a result of my own not paying attention to time. And so it's significantly worse than you're phrasing it as, right? You're letting me off too lightly. This is way more dishonest than I'm.
I mean, I'm all for finding the storylines a competitive game. But
Personally, I have just been enjoying watching some old WWE clips. For example, the one where Vince McMahon predicts the existence of Rishi Sunak as Prime Minister of Great Britain. Have you seen that clip floating around? It's pretty fun.
I have not. It sounds good though.
Yeah, no, it's like I predict in the future Great Britain will be a country in economic devastation, full of decadence and whatever, and it will most likely be governed by a prime minister of Pakistani extraction. And I'm like, he's not incorrect.
Well, stop clocks and all that.
If Sunak has retired by the time this video comes out, we're sorry.
That'll be the quickest turnaround.
I mean, they're competing, right? They don't have much else to compete for.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah,
so
sorry. My thought. Going back to the thing, I think this thing is offense versus offense, and if Sora gets Rain up, the Rain option is incredibly strong into Heaven's team. Alternatively, Trick Room, but also the Trick Room Sora has is a lot less good than the Trick Room Heaven has.
Yeah, I agree. Rain is definitely something that Sora should think about. Polyrath is like super good. Life Orb Close Combat, Oko's Ninetales, and lives either Freeze Dry or Moonblast, which is crazy.
I'm pretty sure Hydro Pump KOs as well. But if it's
quite
max
possibly,
HP,
but close combat is good against like a lot of the team, just generally. But yeah, it's
two, Sceptile and Melodic.
But yeah, Polyrath is like super good if you can get the Rain up.
I was also just thinking Crawdaddy in
power.
Rain.
Sure, double waters, why not?
Yeah.
Here's the other thing that I think might be kind of sweet. I think maybe Sora should give offensive Yuxi another shot.
See, I have a very similar perspective, but it is markedly different. In that I think they should give Articuno Galar a shot being offensive.
So I was thinking about Articuno, but there's a lot of ice type. There's a lot of ice super effective that can outspeed the Articuno.
But there's 1.5 flying resists.
Whereas there is 0 stab super effective attacks into Yuxi on
and it does
Heaven's entire team.
More earth power from Nidoking.
And it's yes.
But so does Articuno, so I take that back.
Beats non-Scarf Nidoking, and Scarf doesn't fare much better, is my notes on offensive Yuxi.
Okay. Does it actually Oko Nidoking? I find that a bit unlikely.
It does like 90%, but
with
it
like
can Calm Mind. No, with I don't remember what Calc did. It does a lot, and it demolishes it at +1 after a Calm Mind.
Okay.
So maybe give some thought to Yuxi. The little floating weirdo might be
also like
might be something.
Solfest or Lycanroc Dusk is surprisingly good.
Yeah, I can see that totally.
I really do like the idea of like Thundurus and Lycanroc as kind of lead offensive things, because both of them can stop all the Ninetales getting up Veil. I think them getting up Veil is one of the worst possible positions for you to be in.
Yeah, could be really rough, right? Because you just say, yeah, sure, you do what you want. Everything you do is going to take twice as long, and I just get to keep pummeling you.
It's trying a lot of Okos into Nokos. And both of these teams can Okos into each other a lot. I'd be concerned with an offensive Uxie. Is that not going to fall between Alolan Ninetales and Sandslash? What are you leading next to Uxie that it's able to deal with like the rain, the hail lead, whether it's Sandslash or Torracat? Because that's I feel like the big pressure is Alolan Ninetales with either Sandslash or Torracat is one of the main lead options you have to prepare for. And then alternatively to that, you have to consider like a Trick Room lead, which is potentially Reuniclus Torracat, potentially not even Torracat on that, just Reuniclus. And then like just like a generic speed control sort of lead, which is like probably melodic with like maybe Halucha or something like that. I know they ran Coil melodic, like physical before, and if they run coaching with Coil, melodic scales really quickly. So the only thing that you're threatening with is only Thunderous. None of the other stuff that you were previously threatening with is as threatening.
Is as threatening, sure. Yeah, there could be some weird, like, when does Yuxi actually get the time to click Calm Mind or something like that when it's not being pressured, or when you're not just giving Heaven the chance to set up an Aurora Veil or something like that, or Trick Room.
I'm just concerned as to when that positioning is. Like, what's the lead matchup you're considering? What's next to Uxie, and what's sitting there on Heaven's side that Heaven's likely to lead?
So I don't think Yuxie is necessarily a lead.
Okay. So it's
but-
sitting behind like Thunderous, Lycanroc, and maybe Thunderous is like fake tears. So does Thunderous get fake tears? I should know this. I have the Thunderous.
I don't think so. It gets Scary Face. It gets
Eerie Impulse.
Eerie Impulse. I don't think it gets Fake Tears.
Gets Leo.
It does get Leer. Yes.
Oh, trust me, I'm well aware it gets Leo. Well, Sora's certainly run it before.
Yeah. So yeah, the positioning might be weird. Like if
positioning is
if
super
Sora
awkward in
ends
this
up-
matchup for both teams.
ends up with something like Yuxi next to Thunderous on turn 2 or turn 3, something like that, with like Nidoking out plus I don't know. Nidoking Torracat doesn't seem unreasonable a couple turns into the game, or like a Nidoking Melodic, something like that. Could be in a pretty nice position where Sora can kind of just ignore what Heaven's doing.
Also, I just
for
realized if
one
you
turn,
ignore
one
most
mon
of the
like
matchup,
that.
this matchup is pretty similar to the last matchup we'll be looking at. It shares 3 Pokemon.
Oh yeah,
Basically the same
doesn't it?
thing.
Yeah, we've got the same match twice in a row, except for 8
The in a row
Pokemon on
bit.
each side.
And the in a row bit, right? Because there's still 2 more matches between that and this one.
Of course, yes.
Yeah, so I think I had notes. Yeah, Rain is really strong. Heaven's fast mode options and Trick Room options are both strong. But Sora's pretty scrappy coach, and Sora has, I think, more options than the team might look like in the first place. So you're incredibly reliant on Torracat to deal with like tech leads, and with Torracat you often lose to a lot of offensive leads, which is definitely a rough position to be in for the French Felicious. I mean,
Do you have any interest in making predictions for these 4 matches, or would you rather just?
I mean, I think we're making predictions in terms of like substance. I don't think it makes that much sense to say I think blank will win.
Fair enough.
Because if we did God, we would have gone like 7-1 last time, you know.
Yeah.
And Sora was the one.
Fair enough. Who we got next here?
Okay. We have Darts versus Tay. So
Darts
Darts
versus-
whose team Vancouver Victinis, who played against Dan the Man, and Tay, who played against Jace. Darts had a super close game where some Techmons kind of did a decent bit of work. I can't remember. I just remember being impressed with the series. I don't remember the actual series.
It was the Dan just couldn't quite get through melodic show.
That was a big thing.
Yeah.
I swear they had,
So
like,
I think
did they bring Lanoon?
no Lanoon last week. I don't know if they brought Lanoon at all, actually.
They definitely brought it once and it died. I remember that. Unless someone has Lanoon in the other div, which is also possible. South Texas Slowpokes played against Jace. Jace brought
Got
a
5,
very
it's got
heavy.
5 kills, actually. Lanoon's got 5 kills,
It
actually.
might have killed everything.
Of course.
I remember it coming.
Regardless, I don't think it comes this week.
Against a team it's got like 1 Dark Resist and a half.
Yeah, but its numbers just aren't very good.
But it's Funny. Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
But
There was a
it's
bit of derail.
funny.
It's funny though. Sorry. Back to like the thing.
Reality.
Jade bought a team that indexed incredibly hard on Trick Room. It lost in Trick Room, and then it lost outside of Trick Room.
Yes.
Like, I think they had like power, the Power Rangers, their power items on a lot of their Pokemon, and they wound up just not having any like sufficient damage. I think like they came to the point of they hit Hypnosis and then a Hydro Pump and then another Hydro Pump, but then they missed the third Hydro Pump, and like you miss one of those three things, it sucks. But I think it would suck more for Tay if all of them hit. And then that just wound up in them being slightly behind. Also, they made a weird play on one of the turns. And then the second game, Tay realized they didn't actually part on Trick Room, didn't do Trick Room, and the game was pretty short. So Tay adapted incredibly well in that game, and they brought good prep. In terms of this matchup, both of these teams do kind of struggle into each other's water types, except I think that Araquanid beats Melodic.
Eventually.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
Araquanid can get defense drops and Melodic can't burn Araquanid.
Fair. Yeah.
One of the things I did note though is Mummy is actually negative for Tay this series. Tay has a lot of really good abilities that they can lose by getting Mummy.
Oh, I see what you mean. I also noted lots of good abilities that Tay doesn't want to lose, but in the context of Worry Seed as a possible tech option on Executor.
Okay. What mod is Executor Worry Seeding instead of killing?
Or dying to. So it's not a perfect plan.
So the answer is nothing? Okay, great.
Araquanid crushes it, Talonflame crushes it. Yeah, so
Circuitry also, like, I mean, I'd rather just be Leaf Storming or Psychicking most of these mons, is what my thought process goes there. I think Executor next to Cursula, like Egg and Cursula next to each other, is very difficult for Tay to take hits from. Yeah.
Just all offense with the slow mons? Sure.
It's called... It's not called Trick Room because it's straightforward.
Yeah, fair enough. Speaking of
it's an awkward matchup
room,
for Darts, right? Because
it definitely
he has mons
is.
that beat Araquanid but lose to the rest of Tay's team, and then he has mons that beat the rest of Tay's team but lose to Araquanid. And the only mon that really stuck out to me as beating most of Tay's team was the Executor. Not the Executor, Cursula. It was Cursula.
Is the Cursula, sure.
Yeah.
So
Cursula has a funny move.
think
what do you think is the funny move Cursula has?
What do I think is the funny move?
Yep, the funny move.
What does Mancini, the Electric Amazing, think is the funny move on Cursula? Your Catholic name.
There are a number
see.
of the funny moves, but one of them is particularly funny, and Cursula actually gets it.
The funny move is... Just make some noises here.
It shares this move with Dracovish.
I'm definitely not scrolling through Showdown right now, looking at all the moves it gets.
I also enjoy running this move on Dracovish a lot.
Oh, so it's not Grudge then?
No. Though, I wouldn't be surprised if Dracovish got Grudge. Grudge is the one that you lose all your PP after you carry them on, right?
That's correct.
Isn't that really bad?
Yeah, it is really bad. What is the funny move on Cursula?
Think of this matchup.
I give up.
Medial Beam.
Oh, that's not a funny move. That's just here's an example of why Power Herb is good.
Yeah, there's like two examples of why Power Herb is good. It's Meteor Beam and Geomancy. Meteor Beam is a funny move. I will stand by that.
All right, fair enough.
And at +1, Cursula's damage is really good. Though on neutral, it's not great.
Yeah, I mean, 145 is brutal.
Right, but Shadow Ball is 80 base power, and I think that's the crux of the issue. If it was 95, like Moonblast, that 145 attack,
would be something, definitely.
Especially when
So-
we're talking about looking for OCOs across the board, right? Like, Meteor Beam is functionally
Yeah.
equivalent to being Specs. And Specs Cursler is good, it just can't switch moves. Or protect.
Yeah, so give it
Also,
the
Perish
give
Body
it
is cool.
+1, and then it can. I agree. Darts hasn't used Cursula much this season, have
No.
they?
To be fair, I think there have been a lot of terrible matchups for Cursler. Like, for
Few
example, last week.
good times to do it. Yeah,
Cursler's main issue is that it does not learn Trick Room.
agreed. That came up in when I was prepping with Daddy for his match against Darts. Because in our brains we were both thinking Cursula Trick Room the whole time, and Cursula does not in fact get Trick Room.
I am well aware of that fact, unfortunately.
Yes.
It's something that is impossible for me to extricate from my brain. Luckily, Eggy Egg does get Trick Room. When I was originally looking to prep against Darts, I was looking at whether I was able to KO Eggy Egg around Togepi with Red Bombie Struggle Bug.
Oh sure, with a spread 4x spread move.
Yeah. That's 50 base power. And Eggy is notably, like, well known for good spit.
Big multipliers is always a way to make up for low base power.
From memory, the conclusion was with Specs, yes, with nothing else.
Oof, that's a rough to make. Do you run Specs on your Rubombi?
I also
so
learned
speaking of
last week with Steve, that apparently Togedemaru gets Fake Out.
What do you mean apparently? Of course, yeah, it gets Fake Out. It's good.
I was in a league where I dropped a more Pico over Togedemaru because I thought Togedemaru did not get Fake Out and I needed Fake Out. No.
Well, I mean,
Morpeko
nobody
did
makes all
multiple
the right
games
decisions.
by itself. So I don't regret that decision. However, I'm really stupid.
So speaking of, I think the fact that Togedemaru exists on Darts' roster means Xurkitree runs Discharge 100% of the time.
Okay.
Between that
That's
and...
a really weird...
So
Discharge
between
kills
Lightning Rod,
his entire
Togedemaru... Say again?
Discharge kills Tay's entire team.
Well, now... Protect is a move. Sandaconda, Tay has been sad he hasn't got to use all season, so maybe it comes.
I think it's possible Sandaconda comes, but it's not very good here. Which is a shame. Sandaconda is a mon that I really want to be good. And it's amazing in singles in, like, super low tiers. Like, well, not super low, but, like, lower tiers. Like, you know, I've run Scarf, I've run defensive, I've run, like, offensive, like, coil variants. But mostly you run, like, defensive with Rest and Jet Skin. But Sandaconda is so frail on the special side.
It's rough.
And in VGC, it's a lot harder to switch out of special attackers than in singles.
Yeah.
Savage isn't great. Like, I even tried using the Max one because it has one of the coolest Gigantamaxes there is, up there with Center Scorch, and it just doesn't have the staying power. And that's also an issue here.
So this spread moves, I think Tay is going to want to bring. Because of Follow Me Togepi, and then I think Discharge on Xurkitree is a possibility.
Okay. So how does that get around, like, a Trick Room variant? Like, if they are Xurkitree Sandaconda, I feel like that's probably the worst possible matchup into Trick Room. And Trick Room is something that Dart seems pretty indexed on in this matchup, at least having as a strong option.
It does. So,
Can I just say how heartbroken I was when I saw this wasn't a good Scyther matchup?
I think, he won anyway, but I still think Scyther last week could have been something.
Yeah, I agree. Scyther keeps having been potential for something and then doesn't get the opportunity.
Yeah, Scyther in the season I had it in VBLN, Scyther was my 7th mon, like 5 or 6 weeks in a row.
I think this team has a lot of 7th mons.
That's kind of a brutal indictment.
Is that a brutal indictment?
I don't know.
I'm saying that this entire team is good.
Oh, see, I read that as
the reason
this entire team is full of not quite good enough.
No, actually, no. This team will have 6 mons,
which
that it kind of wants a lot most weeks. And My 7th, I don't know. What kind of drafts do you have where your 7th mon is the mon that's not quite good enough instead of a mon that you have to remove just because it's competing with something else?
I guess that's maybe just my general pessimism at in the world
When I
coming through.
describe something as my 7th mon, that's generally because I think it's good enough to come, but I prefer something else over it. I don't know to what degree that's just me coming out of singles, but I played VGC, around the time I started playing singles, so.
Sure.
But I think the 7th mon is like your 6 mons that you're bringing because they're all pretty good, and then your 7th mon is the mon that you wish you could fit on the team, but there are only 6 slots, and also your opponent probably has a better 7th slot than you do.
All right, so seventh mon is a good way to describe a Pokemon in your mind, whereas my natural pessimism makes me think, your team's full of Pokemon that aren't good enough.
The reason I think a lot of these mons are 7th mons is because you're limited to one Eviolite user, and Scyther, Lanoon, and Togepi all appreciate Eviolite.
Yeah.
In this matchup, I think there were some calcs where Trapinch does as well.
Trapinch.
Speaking of Trapinch, they have no ground immunity. Tay has no ground immunities.
Trapinch. I kind of didn't even think about Trapinch, but it's the
Trick Room mon.
Something interesting. Yeah, well, it's kind of the Trick Room, right? Cursula, Exeggutor, Drempaw are really... Well, okay, I see in what sense you mean it's the Trick Room mon.
I believe Dropper learns Tailwind.
Not in Gen 7 or Gen 8 it does.
Tragedy.
But, yeah, well, nothing gets Tailwind anymore.
I've seen Dropper click Tailwind before, so my brain just is ever infused with that.
Maybe Natdex Season 9 VBLN. Maybe I draft Drempaw Tailwind and just blow everybody all away.
They could also just have Mood Shooters or Tailwind as a TM in Gen 9.
Yeah, probably not, but maybe.
I mean, why probably not? They normally do it every second gen.
Maybe. We'll see. One of us will be right eventually.
One of us will be right eventually.
Yeah. Given infinite time.
Given infinite time, one of us will be right eventually.
Exactly. So, Trapinch. Interesting.
Yeah, so they have one ground resist and one ground immunity, and both of them are weak to rock. And that gets hit by Meteor Beam, so... Sorry, the reason I even looked for Meteor Beam is because I only ever used Cursula before the DLC came out that added those Mood Shooters, so I was just used to having Power Gem, and I'm like, wait, it might have Meteor Beam. And then it did. And then I remembered I'd seen Glaring Cursula use it.
Yeah, I kind of like this hard Trick Room Cursula Trapinch team where...
I mean, I just kind of like Togepi on both sets of teams, and then like slow mode, which is consisting of like Trapinch, Cursula, Eggy, and then one of them can pad into a fast mode. And then the fast mode is just Togedemaru Melodic.
Yeah, Togepi comes 100%, right? Because I mean, it's even slower than Spritzy, which is brutal for Tay.
Togepi doesn't come 100% of the time, but being slower than Spritzy doesn't mean much for Togepi.
It's on the 6. When I say it comes, I mean it's on the 6. It's not necessarily coming to every game, but I think it comes to team preview.
I think it might come to every game, but no, I wonder why. Why do you think it matters that Togepi is slower than Spritzy?
Because it gets after you, so it can out after you if the Trick Room goes up.
Right. But Trapinch is also just slower than everything.
Well, I had kind of not considered Trapinch.
Right.
You're right. Trapinch is also slower than everything. It's base 10 speed or something like that.
Okay, makes sense now.
Something silly.
Your 10 base speed, pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Point out, it was like the 7th mon they dropped it or something.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yep.
Literally the 7th mon.
Yeah, you got it. By looking at the list in front of you.
I was not looking at that list in front of me until after I said it.
I believe you.
It's like, I'm not very smart, okay? I'm mostly concentrated on looking at the matchup chart. I should probably look at my notes again. Yeah. Trapinch
Yeah,
is
so
not
we're-
the most reliable check circuitry, so Togedemaru is kind of mandatory. But I also like forgot and then unforgot that Togedemaru gets fake out. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're probably looking at like a melodic
I really like
Togedemaru.
bulky circuitry. Like a bulky team for Tay in general is really difficult for darts to get through. Like,
Yeah, what if Tay just says, "I don't care about speed control. I'll just live your hits."
Yeah, so if they throw up like a screen as Trick Room goes up or a Tailwind or whatever, like bulky circuitry, potentially Assault Vest, potentially Citrus, so they're all pretty interesting. Like a Koth, a bulky Kangaskhan, and then Araquanid, which is always bulky just by default.
Which is always bulky.
Really difficult. The fact that Cinderace needs Power Ball to hit Cofagrigus means it has to run Power Ball, otherwise they just get screwed over by Mummy. And the Ghost matchup's pretty rough.
Yeah, I think Tay is very likely to be able to leverage a lot of his points this week in a way that he hasn't always, right? Because like, oh, he's getting value out of Spritzy or whatever, or Tangoro comes 1 week, Tyrunt he brought to week 7, but I could easily just see. Oh, was it week 6?
I don't know whichever game he played me. He brought Tyrunt. I think he brought it week 7 as well.
Yeah. Well, regardless, my point is,
the real question is, does Talonflame
shot? I think there's a decent shot Talonflame comes, right? I mean, it's well, actually, maybe not. I mean, Tailwind is good, but like I just said, maybe just ignore speed control and just take hits and throw fists. So maybe Talonflame doesn't come, but like it beats the Executor, which we've kind of focused in as a
it doesn't really beat Executor, it just threatens it. But like, it is interesting having a Pokemon that has the priority to click a strong move in Trick Room, because the Flying Resist, Nihilego, and Togedemaru are very possibly not going to be in the Trick Room option.
Yeah. But then if it's like a double egg lead or something like that, like Talonflame kind of feels stupid then, because Togepi says, I'm gonna get Trick Room.
Oh yeah, I'm definitely thinking if you're anticipating Trick Room, Talonflame's just kind of in the back as like a tech option to pick off Eggy.
Yeah.
Which is pretty spooky as a tech option. And like, it's interesting having Talonflame in a matchup where its offensive presence is genuine, because that's very rare.
Well, since Gale Wings got nerfed.
No, back then it was still mostly support, right?
No, priority Bravebirds were brutal.
I mean,
because it didn't have to have full. It didn't have to have full.
No, I understand. I also played VGC in Gen 6, but I was more worried about, it had like Prankster Roost and whatever. I was a lot less worried about the Brave Bird damage on account of the fact that it has like 80 attack. I believe it's less than a Mungus. That's it.
In my memory, it was something to worry about.
Were you running like mono fighting type?
No, I was actually a big fan of special support Arcanine in the Gen 6 era. Back before that was the standard way to run Arcanine.
Talonflame was beating you with Prankster Brave Birds.
No.
At -1.
No.
Okay.
That is just the thing I liked doing back then.
Right. It was
Anyway,
counter you didn't want to see. Wait, no, Araquanid wasn't in Gen 6.
There was no Araquanid in Gen 6. All right. So
generally speaking, I think this matchup favors Tay, but certainly not unwinnable.
Yeah, we see some heat from Darts' side, and maybe we get the unseating or just
Tay to lead. Like, if Darts outleads Tay, I think this favors. A lot of this series can kind of come down to lead matchups and how they're able to position. Both these teams are teams that index very heavily on positioning. They've got bulky mons, they've got good attackers, they've solid trick room options, and they've got a lot of interesting support mons. So positioning is a massive thing. Then again, I'm going to say that's the same thing with the next matchup. So
With the next match too, sure. So speaking of, we're what 35 minutes into this, and we've gotten through 2 matchups.
Yeah, it seems pretty good pick.
Yeah,
I figured it'd
with
take us
no one else to keep us on track time wise. We can kind of talk about whatever nonsense we happen to think of, like Gen 6
Yep, all good old Talonflame.
meta games and stuff. All right, let's talk about this next match.
So this is Steve, who
So
Steve and Poppin both had incredibly dominant series. To be fair, Tay also did. Heaven had Heaven as well, but Darts had a more balanced matchup against Dan. It was really scrappy. There was like seeing 2 rough brawlers in the back end, whereas Steve and Poppin both absolutely demolished their opponents. Which was, for Steve, it was Braff, the BB Raff, and for Poppin, it was Goose.
And Goose, yeah.
Let me tell you, that Goose was cooked.
Oof. That was something.
He really got his Goose. I would say his chances were slim. Maybe he should have read up more. Yeah. So
Mother Goose, is that a Mother Goose?
No.
Nope.
Goose's YouTube channel is Slim Red.
Oh, Slim Red.
Yeah,
all right.
yeah.
You went.
I win the competition that I started with myself.
Yeah, you win. Well, I got all your other ones, but I didn't get.
Okay.
Them. All right, you win. Well done.
My joke didn't land. I am therefore better. It's impressive. No, so Steve versus Poppin. The Phoenix Suns
this is
and
the only
Waterloo Worm Adams.
The only rematch so far in finals.
Yes.
This was their week 7 match or week 6.
Sorry, I meant to mention Tay 7-0.
Regardless.
Sora 6-1, both like rank 1, and then here's Poppin, who was also rank 1.
Yes.
So Steve is in for a very fun time.
So Poppin won in the regular season. It was close. It came down to some. What? Yeah.
Does help. I think I respoiled the Poppin one. No, actually, I haven't rewatched this match. The series was pretty good. I remember at the time.
Yeah, this one was pretty sweet. I actually did. I rewatched it on double speed. Before
I watched
this.
everything on double speed.
Yesterday. Well, you're a maniac.
I'm not a maniac. I just have too much on my plate that I put on there myself.
Yeah. The first match was like super close. It came down to like some good switches and predicts at the end of games. This one could definitely go in either direction, particularly with the benefit of already having played the match once. Both of them are going to have to
Do you think
try and like
pulled out particularly unexpected prep in the previous series?
So there was a wild charge on Noivern.
Yes, which surprised Steve, which confused me because Noivern has run Dragon Dance in singles before, so I've seen wild charge.
So I and Poppin both, given that Noivern ran Wild Charge, both see Mantine as a threat, right, into Poppin's team.
It's funny. I hadn't actually really noted the Mantine as much.
Yeah, so Ice Water and Flying is great.
Have just absolutely nutty. Like Blacephalon is so hard for Steve to deal with, and the electric spam is annoying for Poppins to deal with, especially if there's like a free strike Pile Swine for Quagsire, because it also beats Toad.
Yeah. So we've got here's my overall thought is I wouldn't be surprised if we saw the same 6 on each team as in the regular season, but with
what the 6 were on each team,
but with different sets. So it was
because it's not very good yet. Spritzy the best fairy on the team, top 3 fairy, Spritzy on the team. Spritzy's another mon that's repeated between teams.
Oh yeah, there's lots of repeats between divisions in which mons made playoffs. Drampaw's here again.
True.
Who else? Spritzy twice. I think that's all in this particular matchup. But there is a good number of repeats.
Yeah, more than I initially realized.
So Steve brought Rain in the regular season.
Okay, so that was the Steve, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Which
I
was.
actually don't think this is a great Rain matchup. Did Steve do his transactions after that game?
No, I think this was week. I think it was week 7.
Okay. So
it was.
He would have had Piloswine. Did he bring it to the series?
Oh no, it was week 6.
Okay. Did he bring Piloswine to the series?
He did bring Piloswine.
Okay. Wow.
It was, I think, Piloswine, Mantine, Carbank, Raikou, Alchemy, and Grandpa?
Yeah, I definitely
was the 6, I think.
Weezing.
Yeah, no Weezing last time, I think. But so Steve still has no ghost resistances, right?
No,
so,
he's got Grandpa ghost resist, and then he dropped it.
Yeah, but that was before this match.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
That's why I was asking about the transactions, because he used to have a Regigigas. Right, who's okay, but not amazing in this matchup.
So Grandpa being the only way to deal with ghosts means that either or both could come again. I think Sableye is a possibility.
I think
he didn't bring Sableye last time.
But thing I'm still looking at. Because there are 2 interesting moves that could pull a game out. But I don't think, unfortunately, that he has access to either of them. Mantine Gen 2. So, yeah, I don't think Mantine has it this gen, unfortunately. Which is Soak. And then there's also Electrify, but I don't think... I'm pretty sure neither of the Electrics get it in this matchup.
Steve's run those type-changing moves plenty in the past. But yeah, I don't think anything on his team this season gets any of this.
Clearly. Heliolisk was just too good. Actually, no, I think Heliolisk is just on the board.
No, Heliolisk got used in part 1. It was on Braff's weather team.
Okay, it was on part 1. Okay.
So
when you say weather team, did Braff choose? Is Braff the reason there were like no weather setters left?
Yeah,
Did he use multiple weather setters last season?
Yeah, Braff drafted 4 weather setters and 5 Pokemon with weather reliant abilities.
So that's why we can't have fun this
7,
season.
I mean. Yeah, that's why the weather stuff was so weird this season.
Yeah, okay. I see. I had paid very little attention to the previous season, but okay, that explains why they were why neither Sunsetter was legal, you know?
Yeah. So
so I think this matchup, these teams kind of hit each other really hard and then still live, which is kind of awkward. It's really, I think, a question of who gets off the ground quicker. Shedinja is surprisingly good here in Trick Room and terrible outside of Trick Room because it dies. Piloswine hits stuff really hard. Positioning is a really big question. The fairies all hit Poppin's team pretty hard. There's still, just the one ghost check. There's not much in terms of Mons taking water type moves from Steve's team either. So both Quag and Walrein are interesting, though I think more Quag.
Yeah. Walrein came last time, I believe.
Okay.
No, Walrein did not come last time.
Okay.
Neither water type came last time. It was Raikou, Alchemy, Shedinja, Beheeyem, Piloswine, Mantine, and Poppin brought Blacephalon, Noivern, Dugtrio, Venusaur, Orbeetle, Spritzy.
Dugtrio.
Yeah.
Dugtrio
never.
I remember the Orbeetle.
Yeah. So the Orbeetle was.
Calm Mind and it won.
Yeah, it was Calm Mind and it won. Steve I think just has to have an answer for Orbeetle this time, right? So
Yeah, but to what degree
like
is that answer just hitting it quicker?
well, so yeah, I mean, so the answer could just be use the Shedinja to kill it quicker, or
Carbink.
bring Carbink and hit it with a rock move, or
just hit it with like 2 electric moves in a row.
Yeah.
Like
So
yeah, he has to pay
he has
more
to
respect
have a
to
plan.
it. Right?
Exactly.
I think in general, Poppin's team's very difficult if like Poppin's team in 4v4 is really scary, but the second that the game goes to 4v3, Poppin's on the back foot way more than Steve is in 4v3. Because a lot of Poppin's team comes down to
I see what you mean.
the versatility of options. Because if you can only switch out one slot into that defensive mod, like a lot of these mods are frail, but have really key resistances or immunities that they're taking advantage of. And that's how Poppin gets advantages in positioning. Whereas most of Steve's mods are really good at taking hits, and they can take sometimes even super effective hits decently. Whereas a lot of neutral stab hits aren't great for Poppin's team.
So I think Venusaur definitely comes again for Poppin, right? It resists the electric types. 3 fairies. That's the other thing. I think maybe Poppin brings Sun this time, right?
It's interesting.
It's nice as a back pocket just in case Steve tries Rain again.
I mean, Solar Beam is also really strong.
And Venusaur in the Sun has like infinite great options, right? Solar Beam, I'm not giving away any secrets here. Venusaur in the Sun is good, but Weather Ball would give it another way to hit Shedinja, which is not nothing.
Yeah.
So yeah,
it's the best way to hit Shedinja because it KOs regardless of item.
Yep, and that's what Poppin brought last time.
Yeah.
Yep.
I remember.
Is Leech Seed.
And he Leech Seed supported Orbeetle, and it worked.
Yes.
I think Sun's an interesting option. It also gives functionally an extra stab to both of the dragons, and it makes Blacephalon even more absurd to the point that I think you're getting through Piloswine with it in Sun, even with Thick Fat. It's an option, but it is having a passive mon and then an option that isn't speed control if Venusaur's next to it. And if the Venusaur is defensive as last time, then it's potentially having 2 passive mons on the field at the same time, which is not great. It's not like Sableye is short on moves it wants to run.
Yeah, and Venusaur in the Sun is almost by nature not passive, right? Like it can be a bulky Pokemon, but just by nature of it becoming crazy
you're
fast.
Sitting there with Sapsipper Drampa and the Safety Goggles mon, and it's like Leech Seed and Sleep Powder. It's pretty passive.
Okay, fair. So
it's very much
Sun. Yeah, I think Sun might be something Poppin should think about.
It's an interesting option, but I think it's something which only works in one game. I think the second game, once Steve's got the idea of what Venusaur's doing, it's not going to do very much. Depending on if he does have Sapsipper Drampa, If he has Sapsipper Drampa and a Goggles mon, that shuts down a lot of support options. And if it's an offensive option, he knows he can target it down easier. Potentially even making advantage of a Weezing or of Trick Room. Trick Room is something which is a bit awkward for Poppin, because he wants to bring his checks to it, but he also wants to bring all his fast ones.
Yeah, I think if Steve decides he wants Trick Room, he can get it, right?
Yeah.
Like if
there's one really good check for it, which is Sleep Powder.
Sleep Powder, and additionally, Aromatisse just kind of makes actually winning in Trick Room kind of a pain. Like he can get it set up if he wants to, but then he's got to actually win, right?
But Sprizzy's got to come to both the 6 and the 4 for that.
True.
And a lot of mons will die next to Spritzy, even if they get an after you off.
Yeah, it could be a lot of like get one hit in and then go down kind of thing. Like,
yeah.
And
if you're using both your slots to trade for one, it's better than using both your slots to trade for none, but it's not better than both your slots trading for two. Or if it's like, Blacephalon and it does 60% to two slots, that's good damage, but if Blacephalon's dying and you're also taking a hit on Spritzy.
And Spritzy's got to take the hit.
Yeah,
so
you're not achieving that much. A lot of it is really... It's really interesting. It comes down to how they build and how they play. It's really difficult to make good predictions here because there are a lot of options that all the teams have good checks to, and you can only bring so many of the checks, and a lot of it will come down to kind of like the Maskorovka sort of aspect.
A what? I'm not familiar with that.
It's the like counter-espionage thing.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. So that, okay, all right,
It's this.
I got you
in
context
tactic
at least.
When they would pretend they had a bunch more troops than they did in like every front at the same time to scare the Germans.
Gotcha. Not a term I was familiar with, but very clear with some explanation in context. I'm with you now.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you bring like a set that bluffs a mode and then you don't actually play that mode and the opponent over-responds to it, like that can seal a game for you, and then you just need that mode to work next time, or a different mode to work once. I feel like a lot of it's going to come down to kind of rock, paper, scissors, and you have to question, are you going to bring rock or paper? And then, like rock, paper, or scissors, you have to leave one out. And then when the game actually starts, you have to pick between the two of them.
Makes sense. Yeah, this one's going to be a fun one to watch. Definitely looking forward to it. I love a rematch, and
this is really a really interesting game, really interesting series to watch. Now for the exact opposite, here's Heracross versus Electric. These are the two most straightforward teams in playoffs right now.
Yep, it's Trick Room versus
the team with
not Trick Room.
Major option against Trick Room.
Yeah.
And it's also just like a generic offense team. So this is my notes for our matchup, for those of you watching on screen. Heracross beat Camo Dude. I have no idea what happened with Camo Dude. They brought prep, which was very much unlike anything that Steve and I anticipated. They played in ways that boggle the mind, and they still came really close to winning the series against Heracross. I had a series against Steve, where Ally Switch kind of took me out of the first game. In the second game, I was in a really awkward situation where I either needed to get a 50% crit off of Leak Poison Jab, or I needed to call subsequent turns perfectly, but I still had a chance of winning without the crit, as a result of the fact that my Aggron could still take enough hits and I still had Pumpkaboo. So there was a lot of awkward positioning there, and then game 3, my opponent led in a way that I anticipated and didn't have a great response to. I had a great response. They didn't have a great response to my lead. So both of these series wound up being very close against teams that I think had favored matchups and were generally better. And ultimately, I think this is just kind of going to be a question of, does Heracross get to do what they are planning on doing? If the answer is yes, they win. If the answer is no, I win.
Yep. I largely agree. I think it's going to be does Heracross get to throw big attacks off of their Trick Room sweepers in Trick Room or not, right? You've certainly got methods to prevent Trick Room if that's what you decide you want to do, or you could also just decide to be bulkier.
Preventing Trick Rooms, such as imprison Pumpkaboo and hit them really hard.
So that hit them really hard.
Beater, right?
It's what?
I rolled your Trick Room setter with Shot Beater.
I believe so. Yeah. I think I brought Trick Room against you.
Yeah.
But yeah,
3 roll users. which is Sharpedo, Lycanroc. No, Sharpedo doesn't in this format. I remember checking that. Or
Lycanroc does.
Something does. A couple of things do. I know for sure. I have at
Lycanroc
least one
does.
that
And
does.
I think maybe Aggron does.
Yeah,
or
Aggron
something.
definitely does. I know Latias doesn't, which is really annoying because I've used raw Latias on many an occasion. Okay, no, Sharpedo doesn't. Sharpedo is a mod I've also used raw on in the past, but not this gen. There are many times I've used. I think one of the weird things about Heracross's team is that it's got really kind of counterintuitive defensive matchups to what you'd expect. Like, it's weak to just some types that you wouldn't anticipate, and then it's strong into some types that a lot of teams are more weak into. Like, it's got a really good matchup into opposing water, and then it's got a really fraught matchup into like flying and fire. And I think this is like one of the first fire weak teams we've seen, certainly in playoffs. I mean, look at my fire matchup, right?
There is some weird, some weird things to be weak to, but. I mean,
which is good news for me because I have a lot of different types. So, like poison, their poison matchup, for example, where they have 2 poison resists, Mawile and Sandslash, neither of which like Quillfish's Water Staff particularly much, and Mawile doesn't like, none of them like being intimidated much either. And then like poison weakness, and then a bunch of neutralities because Baby Slowpoke isn't a poison type yet.
So I think so. Yeah, so Hera wants Trick Room, right? I mean,
probably
they've wanted it every week.
Yeah, I mean, there's always
that's what their whole team. That's what their whole team is drafted around.
They have the 1.5 modes, which is Lurantis, like contrary with Eldegoss, Cotton Down, is speed control, but it kind of needs an extra turn with Lurantis before it can like set that up, which is
and gets absolutely crushed by Rabombi.
Well, like the idea is that you're faster than Robombi, right?
Well, not the. I mean, just kill the Eldegoss first.
That's what triggers Cotton Down. Sorry, do you know what Cotton Down is?
Oh, okay. I was thinking.
Cotton Spore.
What's the defensive, the plus defense move?
Cotton Guard. Sorry, that's a different one.
Cotton Guard is what I was thinking.
Yeah, no. Cotton
No,
Down, the ability which gives all other Pokemon -2,
yes.
except for Lurantis, it's +2 because contrary.
Yes, gotcha. All right, I'm with you now. I thought you were trying to get swole with Eldegoss with Cotton Spore.
Theoretically you could. My main thought process is that you lead that next to Hitmontop and you get a Fake Out, and Eldegoss gets turn a Superpower or Leaf Storm off so that it's strong. It's got that initial getting strong off, and then you like switch Eldegoss in and get the proc by them targeting down the Hitmontop. Except I am expecting them to do that, so I probably don't target down the Hitmontop. And then the Hitmontop kind of kills me. So it's like a real scissors paper rock. Except in this series we don't have to leave the rock at home because they've only got 3 rock resists. It's basically 0. Yeah, Hitmontop's really difficult for me to deal with. Porygon 2
Hitmontop is rough.
Reuniclus and Slowbro are annoying.
So
annoying.
I think one of the 2 of Reuniclus or Slowbro probably comes.
I can see them both in the 6, but yeah, I do anticipate one more than both.
My prediction is Slowbro over Reuniclus. I prefer the water type for some additional stab options.
Okay.
And
you eventually
also,
got
there. Its physical defense is nice over Reuniclus, particularly dealing with stuff like your Lycanroc or something like that.
I mean, Reuniclus is nice because it's got the special defense, and I was looking at the options for Thundurus, and Reuniclus is going to live it a lot better.
Yeah, we've kind of got different reads on your Thundurus this week.
It depends. The idea was I had like 1 attack and then a bunch of support moves.
Yeah, whereas I think,
no,
not that it's bad, just that I think Defiant being being an option for you
Yeah.
is gonna maybe force
have-
some subpar prep decisions for Heracross.
Subpar, eh? I mean,
Well,
you know, they really want that
so
Intimidate into my
suboptimal, right? So
special
they want the
Sharpedo.
Intimidate. Well, no, they want it for Lycanroc and for Flygon
and Surfetch
and for Surfetched,
and Aggron
but and sure and
and
Aggron.
Quillfish with the aforementioned poison matchup. And that's why I am running Meteor Beam Lycanroc. Just kidding, it doesn't get it, and I am just very sad because I wanted to run it one time. Or one if Aggron or Lycanroc doesn't get it. Whichever one I wanted to run it on didn't get it.
Maybe both of them don't get it. I don't know.
It's possible. I would not
nope,
be
Aggron
completely
does.
shocked. So Pumpkaboo is actually like really good here.
Yes, Pumpkaboo.
They have half a
Do
like,
like.
They have one ghost immunity, no ghost resist. So I just target the Pokemon next to Porygon and I get progress of some form. Will-O-Wisp is pretty annoying for their team because their mons either hate Pumpkaboo's Ghost Stab or hate getting wisped. But they can pressure it offensively with both Hitmontop and Porygon 2. And Moa to some extent. And obviously Glastrier.
Obviously, Glastrier. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of
I
deal
guess we
deal
kinda
with
haven't really
the
been looking at
Glastrier.
Glastrier is spooky.
Yeah.
I
You
am
got to deal with it
Really annoyed
in
with the
some
fact that
way.
all my ice resists are weak to ground.
Oh, true. That's unfortunate.
Except one of them. The one with the ability that punishes physical attackers. Based Rough Skin Fizz Def Sharpedo. We're going back to Gen 3. Do you know what
That's
Rough Skin
certainly
Sharpedo was
not.
switched in on to punish? Rapid Spin. The 20 base power move back then. So I think a lot less good at punishing anything than Glastrier goes for.
Singles is weird.
No, that was Gen 3, right? You understand that was...
Well,
Sharpedo didn't have
fine,
a stab.
then Gen 3 was weird.
Gen 3 was weird. I love Gen 3. Gen 3 OU is one of... It's the best singles gen. And honestly, it'd probably be the best VGC gen. I don't know. There's a lot of tools we don't have yet. But like, the physical special split came with a massive amount of power creep in Gen 4. Like, everything is just broken in Gen 4 onwards because of how high base powers all the moves they introduced were.
Yes, the physical special split definitely a big deal.
Like in Gen 3, you're running calcs around like Tyranitar's Earthquake. Not like its stab move, just random 100 base power move.
So let's talk about let's talk about this duck you got, right? Surfetched.
Oh, sorry. I thought you meant Porygon 2, and I'm like, that one's kind of scary.
Oh, no. That
So
your,
did you know that
duck
Surfetch'd it doesn't fucking kill Porygon?
with
Eh,
with a
combat?
close combat?
Yeah.
Ugh. Okay, so that's brutal. No, I did not know that.
Yeah.
Um,
Certainly doesn't kill Slowbro with the guaranteed crit 9 slash.
Crit Night Slash also doesn't kill Slowbro. That's rough.
It doesn't kill Fizz Def Runiculus, but it kills max HP. It doesn't even kill max HP Slowbro.
Well, there's another reason that Slowbro might be the bring.
Yeah, but you can also just run Fizz Def on Runiculus or a Colbur Berry.
True.
Or have Hitmontop next to fake it out,
Well,
Hitmontop
I had
definitely
not
dissuades Surfetch'd.
I had not done those calcs, so
Trust me,
in
I've
my
done
brain,
many calcs. I have
I'm
set
sure
scope for all 11 of my Pokemon. I have no idea which 6 I'm bringing. I have ideas for all of them. So I've counted, basically everything I can do. From like, I had like a Boom Burst, Throat Spray, Flygon was one of the options that I've scrapped. I also looked at Throat Spray Snarl on Sharpedo. I don't know what it was with me and Throat Spray. I was just interested in it.
that's kind of sick.
Well, neither of them are on the plans anymore, unfortunately.
Or is still in the plans.
No,
Fair enough.
No, sadly. Just a bit slow. Also, Snarl boosts Laurentis' special attack, which I don't need. Honestly, I have no idea what team I'm bringing against this. It's very difficult.
Well, you better make a choice at some point.
Yeah, well, originally we were going to be playing tomorrow, but then Heracross cancelled, and now we're playing ages away, and I'm pretty busy, so it's like... we're playing out on Saturday. My Saturday evening is Saturday morning.
Gotcha.
Which would be an interesting experience.
What else do I want to talk about in this matchup?
I think you did send me a bit of your notes.
I sent you my notes on this. We didn't talk about
Ribombi was the thing.
Yes, speed swap Ribombi. It may not be the thing, but it might be a thing.
Are you thinking Power Hub Fly on Thunderous? If it's defined?
So I was thinking
because its electric
something
stat isn't very good.
Yeah, because you got either Thunder Punch or Wild Charge, neither of which.
But also electric isn't good into this.
Great, and also electric isn't that great in the team. Power Fly could very well just like get you a KO, right? You get Defiant, you get +1, you get your Fly, and then you just sort of be annoying every other turn until the Thunderous dies.
And it could help you like stall out Trick Room.
Yeah, true. There might be something to Latias just being able to throw out dragon moves, as long as Mawa is not on the field.
I mean,
right?
I was impressed with how much Psychic was doing to Mawile.
There you go.
Mawile Spadef was really bad.
Soldu, Psychic move, Dragon move.
Yeah, Soldu, Specs, Life Orb, Weakness Policy. Was there anything else I looked at?
I don't know.
I was pretty sure Life Orb was going to be on something else because I had like 8 other months with Life Orb, and it doesn't have a really convenient way to get the thing up. I also looked at just like Expert Belt, Mystical Fire. I also looked at Physical with Earthquake. It's an interesting option, but I don't think it's that good. Major concern for Latias is it doesn't really stop Trick Room because it doesn't have Roar in this format, and it just is not good into the Trick Room options. But I'm also still considering it, especially if they do bring Slowbro instead of Runiplus, because Latias threatens even like a Spadef-ish Slowbro with an Oko, and it doesn't threaten Runiplus with an Oko ever, like max HP.
Gotcha, sure. So I've got some heat for Hera as well.
Okay. What's the heat you're suggesting Heracross run? Is it another thing where you think they should run like a setup mon that I'm not going to ignore?
No, I think Scarf Electabuzz.
Okay.
Might be sweet.
I have a question.
You have objection? Is your objection...
It's not an objection, I have a question.
Oh, you have a question. Okay.
Why Scarf the Electabuzz? Most of my team is probably not going to run speed for it.
Well, then maybe it doesn't need a Scarf. But,
like what, that makes it faster than
like
4 Pokemon, one of which is clicking a priority move into it, another of which is also clicking a priority move into it. And then one of them Sash anyways. And it's too frail, I think, to Scarf.
I don't know. So my thought is Electro Web and then finish off the Thunderous before it's a problem, or Thunderous isn't there and finish off something else, right?
Electro Web doesn't affect Rabombi? Beyond that, yeah, I guess it makes some sense. It doesn't affect Flygon either. I'm not sure it's Scarf Ice Punch if Electabuzz gets it, which, given the random coverage that Magmar and Electabuzz don't get, that Magwater and Electivire do, it might not. But I think it does get Ice Punch.
Yeah, it gets Ice Punch.
Like, it's not KO. Like, what if I have 2 Pokemon there, right? So it's Thunderous and Latias, and then they activate a Weak... Oh, no, it's not actually Weak. But, like, you know, I still have 2 Pokemon, right? And Rabombi threatens a lot of the mons that threaten Thunderous with an Oko. Except Glastrier, which will still be slower. Actually, now that I look at it, only Hitmontop and Sandslash would ever be faster than Thunderous at -1.
Alright, so you've talked me out of Scarf Electabuzz.
Okay. Okay. It's very interesting. You know, James, you're a very fun individual. It's just, I feel like you come up. Here's the thing: is that sometimes you don't think through the things that you plan. Oh, okay. No, I actually see this here. Scarf Electabuzz might be the secret sort mixed up next to something that can finish off a Thunderous, which is Technician Hitmontop. Okay, I have 2 comments there. 1, Hitmontop doesn't need Technician. 2, why don't you just fake me out and kill me with the Pokemon that's next to it instead of using 2 Pokemon?
Look, we've all got different ways we play this game. It's a very complicated game.
The difference is that
we have different thoughts.
I think we see the difference in our draft philosophies, or the building philosophies, right? My building philosophy is generally to try and win.
Oh, and mine is to not lose.
Is it to not lose?
Look, I think there is a difference between trying to win and trying to not lose.
I understand that there's a difference, but are you trying to not lose? Well, I mean, I would say I try to not lose. I try to minimize the amount of decisions my opponent can make that beat me. Have you ever played card games competitively?
Yeah, I'm a big Magic player, actually.
I like to describe the way that I like to play as control. Now, this is obviously a much more like aggro sort of build, but traditionally the way I build and the way I prep and the way that I practice is to try and play like control. Minimize the amount of decisions my opponent can make, neutralize whatever they can. This team is definitely pressuring me to play that a little bit differently, mostly because Latias wasn't as good as I expected it to be. But control is definitely the way that I would lean towards, which I would probably describe as being trying not to lose. But
I agree.
Okay, what would you say your build style is? Because I would say greedy is basically the only descriptor that really comes to mind.
In Pokemon?
Yeah.
Yeah, greedy is fair.
It's just some very interesting decisions. Because I feel like I just don't know what half of the things you want to do achieve. And the other half of the things I understand what they want to achieve, but I don't understand how you do them. It's very interesting. It's a lot of fun, like, prepping with you, because you really come up with some very, like, I've been told that, like, you know, I come up with, like, heat builds or, like, spicy techs or whatever. Whether it be, like, the no-item Dust Noir that beat the opposing Poltergeist for Daddy that Steve actually stole from me and I stole from Singles. But you really just come up with some absolutely crazy stuff. It's very fun.
Well, interesting and crazy are kind words for 2 and 5 in the regular season. So,
hey, 2 and 5 is really solid. You are 0 and 5. You don't take those 2 wins. Were you like 1 and 7 in the previous the BSP thing?
Yeah. Whatever. That was a rough season.
This was also a rough season. And I don't think either of those cases it was teams. It was mostly just having a different play style to how you built. I was trying to calc something, but I forgot what it was. I have no idea what on earth I would have been trying to calc now. Oh, I wanted to see whether Thunderous was actually slower than him on top at -1.
It is, yeah. I actually did check that. Yeah,
like
Hitmontop doesn't have to be quite max speed,
or like gonna be adamant.
But I think it can be adamant. 122.
Okay, it can be adamant.
Yeah, it can be adamant.
Okay.
Yeah, Thunderous is 119 at -1 if it's max speed.
So say the Pokemon I have next to it is Rabombi, and then him on top is dead. You know, I don't know. It's some interesting. Oh, sorry, I keep accidentally doing that and not thinking about that. No, I think it's an interesting matchup in terms of building, but I don't think there's really a whole lot to say in terms of prep. Both of us have relatively straightforward teams in terms of what goals we want, and it's just a question of what routes we take to achieve those goals. Personally, my money's on Pumpkaboo.
My money.
Or yesterday was Melbourne Cup Day. So.
My money stays in my pocket. I'm not good at betting.
Okay. So yesterday was Melbourne Cup Day, which for one of our states is a national holiday, not mine. But like, you're expected to bet on the horse racing in workplaces. So.
Gotcha.
And I think I I bet 5 and I got 7. So basically a gambling expert. I should start one of those like internet courses they sell to children about how to make money.
they sell to children.
Yeah, like Andrew Tate and stuff. It's like a
Yeah.
here's how to succeed.
I'm familiar.
Don't go to university and spend $50 a month on my course.
Yeah. Well, given that we've spent the last 10 minutes talking about my last 2 regular seasons, I think we're probably more or less coming to the end of this one. Yeah.
Well, let's even money. Sora versus Heaven. Who are you leaning towards?
I think I like Heaven.
Okay. Darts versus Tay. Who are you leaning towards?
I mean, it's the history says I should bet on Tay.
So putting aside players,
Yeah.
because I think both Darts and Tay are good players. I personally, if you were to put like most coaches up in a 1v1 against Tay, and you just look at players, that's a big thing. But
Tay's
Darts
not
does
magic.
have a bunch of really interesting things that match up into it.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. So I think history says I should bet on Tay, but I think I want to put my dollar down on Darts' side.
All right. Steve versus Poppin.
I think Poppin gets it again.
And Heracross versus Electric.
I think this one might be Harris.
So I basically agree with most of those conclusions. I think Darts versus Tay is super close, very difficult to call. I think Sora versus Heaven's really close, and I'd slightly lean Heaven, slightly lean Poppin, and I lean Heracross pretty strongly in our matchup.
I think it's closer than you do, but I think Heracross is the pick.
I think this is the least close of the 4 games. Would you agree with that?
Yes, I would agree with that, but I think it's closer than you.
I'm mostly thinking relative to the other games. Like if I compare this to my matchup with Daddy, I thought that leaned Daddy, but there was a significantly greater ability for me to outplay. But I don't feel like I'll be able to. Like outplaying doesn't really pay anything in my game versus Heracross. Play matters very little. It's really just a question of whether we've been good enough prep, which is not the most positive feelings to have towards the matchup. Like I feel like I've got a lot of options and none of them seem good enough to just allow me to like win. So yeah. Thank you guys for watching. Leave a comment below about what you guys think will happen in our remaining games. Thanks once again to the Doctor, whose link will be down below for the time. And I'll also link the previous setups analysis I had with Steve. Thank you guys for watching.
Awesome. Thanks.
Awesome.
Goodbye.